You're a fraud, Spider-Man!
That clip basically summarizes this entire movie. Okay, in order to make this movie review, I was gonna rewatch this movie, but for some reason it cost $4 to rent, and thinking that this movie isn't even worth $1, I decided to postpone my watch until I could view it for free. Doing so, I can now confirm that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is indeed not even worth $1, or at least the writing of the movie wasn't worth $1. Additionally, I also discovered that this movie makes absolutely no sense. Sure, there's good acting sometimes, cool fights, nice effects, and a pretty solid score, but the writing of this movie really makes it an inconsistent and illogical mess. So, let's review it. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 starts off with Peter's parents flying on this plane. His dad is trying to upload something called Roosevelt on his computer, and his mom uses the bathroom. Anyways, the flight attendant comes in from the cockpit and turns out to be some kind of assassin who tries to kill Mr. Parker. The movie all of a sudden breaks out into a Jason Bourne-esque fight on the plane, which ends with Mr. Parker successfully sending his streaks before the plane crashes, killing everyone. Dude, for some reason, this assassin guy just openly washes his bloody hands in front of Peter's dad, like just intentionally trying to let him know that he just killed the pilots. And before you're like, oh, ghost toast, he had to wash them there because that was the only sink on the plane. Why did he even need to wash his hands in the first place when he could have just killed Mr. Parker with his gun right away? Also, why did he even have to draw attention to himself by unnecessarily starting a conversation with Mr. Parker so that he would look at him and notice his hands were bloody? This is the dumbest assassin ever, but somehow he's not the dumbest thing in this movie. Not even remotely close. So after that, we get our first scene with Spider-Man, full of hilarious quips, jokes, and jerking around for way longer than he needs to and unnecessarily putting people's lives in danger by messing with the bad guy instead of stopping him. What a great hero. I will praise this scene for having a great score to accompany it, as well as cool cinematography at the beginning, but still, I can't get past Spidey putting people in harm's way for literally no reason. In this opening scene, we also get introduced to Jamie Foxx's character, Max. Oh wait, not that one. Yeah, that one. Max is an overlooked geek who no one respects, but he sure does love our main protagonist, Spider-Man. Dang. This is pretty much the same villain origin story as another terrible superhero movie that I already reviewed. And that review was super funny and you should totally check it out. And yes, I know, shameless plug, but I'm not lying when I say that if you really like funny movie reviews, then you would really like this one. So you should definitely check it out. Link is in the description, unless I forget to put it there, but you can always check it out on my movie review playlist on my channel. Max gets saved by Spider-Man in this scene, and Peter tells him that Max is his friend, and that he needs him to keep his eyes out for him on the street. Hey, I know this has almost nothing to do with the movie right now, but in Spider-Man No Way Home, how does Max go from geek guy who probably makes Spider-Man Rule 34 and fanfics to essentially Bats from Baby Driver but with Electro's powers? Anyways, Spider-Man stops the bad guy but is late to his graduation and Gwen's speech. I should probably mention at this point that Peter keeps hallucinating Gwen's dad everywhere he goes, and it eventually leads to him and Gwen breaking up. Peter keeps seeing her dad because at the end of the first movie, he promised Gwen's dad that he wouldn't date his daughter anymore because it would put her in harm's way. Like, I get he feels guilty about lying to him as he died, but like, why is he randomly hallucinating him showing up everywhere? Maybe lay off the Mary Jane a bit, Peter. It is at this point in the movie that we get introduced to Harry Osborn, Peter's old friend and the billionaire Norman Osborn's only son. He visits his dad Norman because he is dying from something called
the Osborn curse.
Apparently, the Osborn family is afflicted with some really rare genetic disease that turns them into goblins somehow. Yeah, I don't know. They don't really explain it other than Harry is going to start showing signs of it like right now, and his dad never told him about this until now. Norman gives his son a flash drive of sorts, telling him that on it is everything he did to prolong his life and try to cure the disease. But for some stupid reason, Norman never tells Harry how to use the drive. Like, later in the movie, Harry has to accidentally find out how to use this drive in order to access all of this life-saving information his father told him about. Yeah, for some reason, the writers of this movie just really like having people accidentally find things, as we'll come to find out later, which really just comes across as lazy writing. Alright, so there's some electrical thing wrong at Oscorp, and since the guys at Oscorp are jerks to Max, they make him stay late to fix it even though it's his birthday. While making the repair, Max accidentally falls into a vat of electric eels and dies. Psych, he actually becomes Dr. Manhattan. Okay, seriously, I don't really blame this movie for changing Electro's design, cause obviously, they weren't gonna have him run around with this goofy costume right here, but I still don't think this weird blue design looks too good either. I don't know, could just be me, but it just doesn't work in my opinion. Oscorp thinks Max is dead, so they just leave him on a table and he gets like revived from the electricity or something like that. They don't really explain, but that's a calling card of this movie at this point. Anyways, Peter and Gwen get back together and they're having a cute little date when all of a sudden, Electro starts causing some havoc in Times Square. Max needs energy now because he's blue, so he starts plunging his hands into these wires. Obviously, this starts freaking everyone out, and the police are about to shoot at him because they think he's a monster. Spider-Man swings in to help defuse the situation, and since Max is like totally obsessed with him, he begins to trust Peter and listen to him. Peter tries to invite him to go somewhere private and talk things out, but while Max is walking, he accidentally has some sort of electric reaction that makes the cops think he's attacking Peter, so they shoot at him, which causes Max to angrily start attacking the police. I will say that the music for this scene is extremely good, and really helped set the tone of a high-stakes battle, but then again, what can you expect from the legend Hans Zimmer? After some admittedly cool cinematography and fight choreography, Peter ends up defeating Max by spraying him with a water hose. As you may have noticed, I've been praising this movie for some of its aspects other than writing, and that's because I really do think that a majority of this film's flaws stem from its writing, not its direction or execution. This could have been a perfectly good movie if the writing was just better, but unfortunately, that is not the case. And what a perfect time for me to start mentioning the writing of this movie. Cause would you look at that, it's time for that scene where Harry completely stumbles upon how to use this drive his dad gave him by complete accident. What a great and definitely not cheap or easily convenient way for Harry to find out how to use this device. Seriously though, why does it need to be a complete accident? The writers could have easily just had Harry find a note or a video from his dad explaining how to use it, or you know, just had his dad explain it to him. Regardless though, the drive has all of these cool secret projects that Oscorp has been working on, and Harry just somehow automatically knows how to start using this new interface with no problems. Very conveniently, the first two things Harry finds on this drive are the Green Goblin suit and a video where Peter's dad immediately starts talking about how spider genes can self-heal. Because Harry hears this, he begins to jump to some major conclusions. First of all, Harry just completely assumes that Spider-Man must have gotten bitten by one of these super spiders, and that's how he got his powers. Then, Harry assumes that one of Spider-Man's powers must be to self-heal, even though Spider-Man has never given any indication that he has that ability. Next, Harry assumes that if he gets Spider-Man's blood, he'll be able to make a cure out of it that can heal him of his condition. Even though, no, that's not how blood works. And finally, he calls Peter over and asks him to talk to Spider-Man because he assumes that Peter just randomly knows Spider-Man since he took his picture a few times. Yeah, that's the only connection. This is so funny, because then Peter tries to defend himself by explaining to Harry what a long lens camera is, and Harry still thinks he knows Spider-Man because one time, Peter told him that Spider-Man gave the people of the city hope. Peter then tells Harry to remember what happened to Dr. Connors, and Harry says that will be different for him because Connors was weak. Like, wait, what the heck? How does that have anything to do with whether or not the golden spider blood will cure you or turn you into a monster? What's Harry's logic here? You're saying if Connors hit the iron and got absolutely yoked out of his mind, that Spider-Man's blood would have all of a sudden cured him and not turned him into the lizard? Like, what is Harry's logic here? And it's not like Harry is Ben Swallow. Why would he not be considered weak enough for the blood to turn him into a monster? I don't know, that logic is just super weird. Peter tells Harry that he'll try to find Spider-Man for him and leaves. Before I move on, let me just play a quick compilation of the awkward dialogue found in this scene.
I don't know how, and I don't know why, but he can do everything else a spider can.
It may not be that simple. You saw what happened to Kurt Connors, right?
Connors was weak. This is me, Peter. You took his picture.
So,
You know him.
Harry, I took a picture from a long way away. I used a long lens.
Don't turn your back on me.
I'm gonna try and find Spider-Man.
Right after that whole fiasco, we see Max, now Electro, in a prison where they are studying him. He tells the doctor studying him that the doctor better kill him because if he doesn't, well, let me just play the clip.
I'm gonna kill the light. Everyone in the city is gonna know how it feels to live in my world. A world without Spider-Man.
Yeah, how did Max go from disgruntled employee to psychopathic would-be murderer making weird evil monologues about killing light itself and subjecting everyone to a world without Spider-Man? No, like actually, in the last scene we saw him in, he was scared and angry, but still within reason for his character. Now he's all of a sudden like completely evil, and it's just a telltale sign of bad writing having to rush his transformation into a villain. After this, we get an extremely well acted and heartwarming moment between Aunt May and Peter, but then after a bit of quality, the movie remembers that it's not supposed to be that good, and we enter the next scene where Spider-Man meets Harry. There is just so much comedy gold in this scene that it feels like we're in California in 1849, dude. For starters, Peter doesn't even try to mask his voice at all when he's talking to Harry, which should have just gave away his identity right there. Like, Harry doesn't know the voice of his best friend. Peter also doesn't want to give his friend Harry his blood because it might kill him. Even though he's like legit dying right now, that also doesn't really make sense because his dad died in like 50 plus years, and for some contrived reason, Harry is gonna die like tomorrow, so that literally doesn't make any sense. Spider-Man tells Harry that his blood might do something even worse than killing him, but like, come on. His options are A, at least take a chance that his blood could help his friend, and at worst, he turns into some kind of monster thing, or B, do nothing and literally just let his friend die without doing anything to help him. I don't know, dude. I don't think it can really get much worse for Harry. Like, just give him your blood. And if something terrible does happen for some random reason, I think Harry would be fine with it because at least there was a chance of him surviving instead of just guaranteed dying from the Osborn curse. We've got some more quality writing to sit through though, chaps. And I do say that with the highest degree of sarcasm. So Gwen decides to go to her dream college in England, and Peter's whole world is falling apart. He can't figure out what happened to his parents, he can't help his best friend from dying, his girlfriend's leaving the country, it's all going wrong. So he starts wrecking his room, and in a fit of rage, he throws his dad's old calculator against the wall. When it breaks, all of these little train coin tokens come spilling out of it. And Peter uses these to figure out that Roosevelt, the thing his dad was uploading something to in the plane scene, is actually a secret train system in New York. Then, I kid you not when I say this, Peter goes to the abandoned subway tunnels and puts in one of these coins into the entry gate thing. And all of a sudden, the ground opens up and a fully refurbished and technologically decked out train car emerges from underground with Peter's dad's secret lab inside of it. Look, I know this is a superhero movie and this isn't all supposed to make perfect sense or be completely logical, but I'm still going to rip this sequence of events to shreds anyway. How did Peter's dad build all of this? Constructing a giant contraption that can literally lift an entire train car out from a secret underground compartment surely must have took months and tens of thousands of dollars, if not more. He would have needed an entire technologically educated construction crew to help him build this. So how did he coordinate with all of them without anyone else knowing about it? Sneak all of the required workers and building materials into the abandoned subways? Somehow hide the noise and suspicion of a giant construction project like this? Be able to dedicate enough time and resources into this project to complete it? Somehow pay the massive amount of money that it would take to build something like this? And work consistently at Oscorp and here at this secret lab? It just doesn't make any sense. Speaking of not making sense, do you know what a major principle of quality writing in a movie is? Not using convenience to get your characters out of problems. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I would say that having Peter accidentally find the train coins by randomly throwing his dad's calculator into the wall reeks of plot convenience. The writers couldn't have just had him put together some clue to figure it out or something. He just had to oafishly stumble across it by complete happenstance. That's just lazy or incompetent writing, which is exactly what holds the rest of this movie back. Back with Harry, he just happens to find out about Electro from his dad's secret files thing, but then his access gets denied right when the rich board member guy breaks into his office. I guess they couldn't deny his access until the exact moment when the bad guy walks into his room. This business guy was like, don't restrict his access until the precise second that I break into his office. They just kick Harry out of the company, but Harry goes to the prison where Max is staying at, and turns into John Wick for 2 seconds in order to break into the facility and free Max. Really quick, the conversation between Max and Harry has a couple of funny, weird moments, like, just take a look at this.
I'm not the one you want. You want Spider-Man. And I can give him to you. And then once you shut down the grid, Spider-Man will come to you, and I want you to make him bleed.
You need me?
Yes! I need you! I need you, please! I know what it's like to be thrown away! Please, Max!
You wanna be my friend?
I thought we were already friends.
I had a friend once. It didn't work out.
So after Harry breaks Max out, they team up and Max breaks Harry into Oscorp, where he forces evil business guy to take him to Dexter's lab in the basement and give him the spider venom. Remember how Harry said that the spider blood would cure him if he wasn't weak like Dr. Connors? Yeah, well, I guess Harry is weak, cause the spider venom totally causes his Osborn curse to get way worse right away. He sees the Green Goblin suit and crawls into it, which then somehow just like magically heals Harry. Like, wait, what? Okay, first of all, it's not like Harry has some sort of physical injury. He has the Osborn curse, dude. That's like an eternal illness. So how can the Goblin suit just cure him of a disease? And if it could do that, and that was one of its legitimate capabilities, then why didn't Harry or Norman just use the suit to fix their Osborn curses? Instead of risking it with the spider venom that could or could not work, why didn't Harry just hop inside of the suit until they could find a more permanent solution to his problem? And people are going to be like, oh, Ghost Host, he didn't know about it until now. To which I say, he totally did. We saw him looking at the suit as one of the special projects in an earlier scene. And even if you goons out there want to argue that he didn't know enough about it because he didn't watch the video for long enough, then to that I say, why did he randomly start crawling towards it if he didn't know it could heal him? And if you still want to say that maybe he just guessed that it might be able to heal him, then to that I say, why the heck did Norman not use it if it was built under his supervision as one of his secret projects, which he would have totally known the full capabilities of? He gave Harry the little device that could access all of these secret files, so he definitely knew about these projects, even calling them what he did to stay alive. So he for sure knew about the healing capabilities of the Goblin suit. And if he knew about that, then why didn't he just use the Goblin suit to heal or at least delay his Osborn curse? Any way you look at it, this is a silly plot hole. And it's just another example of the atrocious writing of this movie. After this, Peter gets Gwen's attention, swoops her up onto the top of this bridge, and tells her that he will follow her to England and the two make out. Just then, however, Electro attacks the city's power grid and Peter has to stop him. When Electro cuts the power, everything seems to be going downhill. Like, air traffic control and the hospitals have absolutely no power, but like, are you really telling me that important places like this don't have backup generators? I find it very hard to believe that there is not some form of backup power for these vitally necessary industries. But you know what? Who cares about being logical? Certainly not this movie. Peter fights Max at the grid, and we get some cool fight choreography and an epic score. Max plays the itsy bitsy spider on the power grid tower things somehow. Like, first of all, why mess around like this? But secondly, like, physically, how? It's not like these things are different keys on a synthesizer, so why would each one create a unique noise, and how did Max know exactly what noise each one would make and be able to smoothly play the itsy bitsy spider without any trouble? Oh right, it's a superhero movie. Drop the logic for a second. Okay, so Gwen shows back up and Peter tells her to turn on the power grid after he connects the wires so that they can overload Electro and make him explode. Yeah, that's right. Peter fully intends on killing Max. Cool. They execute their plan and Max gets overcharged and dies, and the city is saved. Really quick, I know Spider-Man is super strong and
Can do everything else a spider can.
but unless one of those things is surviving in New York City's power supply worth of electricity for multiple seconds, I'm pretty sure Peter should have died from this. Kinda seems like that much power would at least knock him out, if not easily kill him and completely incinerate his body, leaving absolutely nothing left. Anyways, the city is saved, but then Harry immediately heads to the power grid to find Spider-Man and kill him. When he sees Gwen there, jump to outlandish conclusions, Harry automatically assumes that Peter is Spider-Man. After a really cool fight that only lasts like 10 seconds, Peter, Harry, and Gwen get caught on some gears in this random clock tower that just happened to be right next to the grid. With a nice indicator of a ticking clock, every time a gear moves, it gets one stroke closer to severing the web that is holding Gwen suspended in the air. Peter tries his best to fight off Harry while holding onto Gwen and stopping the clock, but eventually the clock breaks and gears fly everywhere from the built-up pressure. Harry gets knocked out and Peter tries to save Gwen before she hits the ground. He shoots a web that catches her, but the whiplash from the sudden stop in her momentum snaps her neck, and she dies instantly. I know I've been dunking on this movie for almost the entire review, but I will give credit where credit is due. This scene is phenomenal. Very emotional, perfect setting, acting, dialogue, cinematography, music, everything comes together perfectly in this scene. Gwen's death scene is a shining moment in an otherwise poorly written movie, and I give props to the team behind this movie for crafting such a quality scene, even if it does come in the midst of so much other garbage. The funeral scene afterwards is also really good, as Peter grapples with losing the love of his life so suddenly. Spider-Man disappears for 5 months, and then we get a scene where Harry is visited by this guy in the shadows with a fedora. You know, the same guy who visited Dr. Connors at the end of the last movie, who like straight up literally disappeared out of a maximum security prison cell. He is called Mr. Fierce, and he apparently has so much power and influence that he can visit highly dangerous criminals easily. He tells Harry about this team that they were going to put together, which is heavily implied to be the Sinister Six. We see him walk in front of Doc Ock's arms and the Vulture wings before passing a Rhino suit, which he gives to the Russian guy from the beginning of the movie after breaking him out of prison. Let me just say that Harry is somehow magically fine in this scene and doesn't look like a weird elf goblin creature anymore, and the only explanation for this is,
Speaking of progress, you're looking better.
It comes and goes.
what? You know what? Whatever. This movie is almost done. I don't even care to talk about that stupidity. Let's just get this over with. Rhino is wreaking havoc on New York City, and this little kid dressed as Spider-Man decides to crawl under the fence and get in the middle of a firefight between Rhino and the police. Luckily, in a touching moment, Spider-Man returns after he was inspired by Gwen's graduation speech that he missed, and he taunts Rhino a bit before they engage in combat, with the movie ending before their fight is over. Really quick, I want to talk about how the promotion material for this movie made it seem like we were going to get 3 main bad guys for this film, cause it hyped up Electro, Green Goblin, and Rhino. But then in the actual movie, only one of those bad guys has a fight with Spider-Man that lasts for more than like 30 seconds. As a kid, I was so hyped from this trailer, but then disappointed when the movie actually came out and Green Goblin and Rhino were hardly in this movie at all. And yet the trailer made it seem like they were going to be a big part of it. But yeah, that's the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I will say that there are definitely a lot of positives in this movie, even though this was a critical review. The acting is good, sometimes, and I really like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. The music by Hans Zimmer was an absolute banger, the effects were pretty good, the fight choreography was really solid, and even the cinematography was really good in its own right. The one thing that really held this movie back was the poor writing. There are so many plot holes and inconsistencies and bad lines of dialogue that it really hampers what could have been a great movie. Let The Amazing Spider-Man 2 be a lesson on how critically important the writing of a movie is. It can either elevate your story to legendary status, or it can drag down an otherwise perfectly good movie. But what did y'all think about the movie? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you really enjoyed this review and want to see more like it in the future, then please hit that thanks button, and for as little as $2, you can let me know that you really enjoy my content and can help support my dream of becoming a full-time content creator. Make sure to hit that like and sub button, and I hope you all enjoyed my video. Stay away from fraudulent Spider-Mans and Osborn curses, and have a great day.